Hello and welcome to Chapter 12, the last chapter in Accounting 205. Today's video will talk about tax administration and planning. A lot of this, of course, will revolve around the Internal Revenue Service. What I'd like to do is kind of move to page 12-5 in your book. I'm not so worried about that you know the makeup of the IRS. I want to focus on really what's going to be on your final or on your last test. Okay, so I want to start with 12.5. All right, one of the things that the IRS has the power to do is to request to examine your records at any time. This applies to whether you're an individual or a business. They can also freeze your bank accounts. They also can freeze your business assets and your personal assets if they choose to. And these, of course, are some of the stories you have heard about the IRS in the past. But generally that does not happen very, very often. Okay, so one of the sections that you might want to review is the bottom of page 12.5, and where they talk about collections. All right, once the IRS has determined that you owe them money, all right, of course they're going to try to collect the money from you. All right, and there is, for example, there's form 9465 that you can file with your individual tax return if you cannot pay the IRS everything you owe. And as long as you owe less than $10,000 and can pay off your taxes within 3 years, the IRS has to accept your bid to pay your taxes off over time. Okay, this doesn't go on your credit report unless you don't pay it back. Okay, you will have to pay penalties and interest. We'll get to that later in another video. Okay, but this is one way to make sure that you get your taxes paid and that you don't have the IRS haunting you. All right, again, that's form 9465 and is available to anybody that owes less than 10 grand and can pay it off within 3 years. Okay, if you cannot pay back your taxes, all right, you can request an offer in compromise, and that's mentioned at the bottom of page 12.5. Okay, honestly, you have to be pretty destitute in order to get one of these things. All right, I know you see ads on TV and this, and but honestly, a lot of those people are just trying to, it's a scam. They're trying to get your money, and they're actually providing a service that you could do for yourself for free. Okay, but it is called an offer in compromise. You can check it out at irs.gov if you know anybody that literally cannot pay back their taxes. Okay, the next place I'd like you to go is to page 12.6, and let's take a quick look at the audit process. Okay, there are 3 types of audits that the IRS can administer. Okay, the overwhelming majority of them is called the correspondence audit. That's when you get a letter from the IRS asking you to, possibly pay an amount due. It could be that they owe you. Okay, it's not that unusual. Okay, and but the more common one is when they send you a bill, and because there was something that was left off the return. For example, they received a copy of a W-2 that you didn't put on your return, or they received a copy of a 1099 MISC that you did not put on your return. And so what they do is they automatically amend your return for you and just send you a bill. All right. A lot of times they don't put a penalty on the bill. Because a lot of times it's just an oversight on your part, so sometimes they won't penalize you, but they will charge you interest, and their interest rate is roughly 4% per year. Okay, so again, you have three types of audits, the most common one being the correspondence audit. Okay, the two types of audits that people, I guess, fear would be the field audit and the office audit, or the office visit. Okay, in the office visit or office audit, you are sent a letter by IRS and requested to bring documents which support a certain tax return. And you would take them to your local IRS office. We do have one in South Bend, Indiana. It's located in what was commonly known as 1 Michiana Square, and it is the 4-story brown brick building right across the street, catty corner from the United States Post Office. Okay, if you ever get a request for an audit in their office, okay, only bring what they ask for. Don't bring anything else, because honestly it could hurt you, and two, it just makes the audit a lot longer. Personally, I have been involved in 4 office audits in my 30 years. I won 3, lost 1, but the one that I lost ended up helping my client in the long run. All it was they disallowed a loss in a certain year, and it carried forward to the next year, when actually the loss actually got them back a bigger refund. So the IRS lost in all 4 cases that I represented my client. If you want to call it that, or my client won all 4. So, and then you have what is known as the field audit. The field audit is when the records are so voluminous that you can't possibly take them all down to the IRS office, and they need to come see you. Of course, you would probably be a large major corporation. All right, it does mention in your book that major corporations basically have IRS agents on site. They have offices there and they are constantly, quote, quote, auditing the company, like literally every day. So if you get a letter from IRS, or if your client gets a letter from IRS, open the letter. All right, read it. Okay, all right. If you take a look on page 12-9, okay, all right, it'll tell you that there are 3 possible results of an audit. All right, it gives you a nice pictorial diagram there of the 3 things that can happen. Okay, the first one is that you agree with the amount that is due, you pay the tax, or you set up a payment plan, and that's the end of the story. Okay, the second one is that no adjustment is necessary. Okay, for example, I had a client a long time ago who claimed 150,000 business miles, and I suspected he would be audited. He was. He was asked to produce his mileage records. His records were perfect. He was an old-fashioned peddler. He drove around in his van from flea market to flea market all around the state of Indiana. He kept very copious records. The audit lasted 10 minutes. Once the IRS saw all of his gas receipts and all of that, and his mileage log, they made a couple copies, they looked it over, and we were done with the audit. Okay, so that means no adjustment necessary. Basically, that's a win for the client. Okay, but sometimes the client disagrees with a tax or a refund due. For example, the IRS might disallow a deduction. The client disagrees with that deduction, and therefore then it starts the appeals process. Okay, generally you're going to start with that agent's supervisor, whoever's running the local field office. All right, and if you can't get it satisfied, then excuse me, then the next step would be to go to an appellate court. Then you might possibly go to tax court. Tax court is open to the public. Anybody can go to tax court. If just find your local tax court and you can go there and watch the proceedings. Okay, but that's how the audit process and how the appeal process works. All right. In the next video, we'll talk about interest and penalties.